Hi, my name is Matt. Um, I created a new channel called Sandbox Netwerx because there's a lot of attention given to a certain like software platform, but really the thing that I think is missing in the community or communities for IT is building your own sandbox. So what is a sandbox? Well, a sandbox is slang for a virtual environment or a virtual network topology that's live. It's got real virtual machines in it that you control, but it's in your own space, right? That it's kind of like in the days when you were a kid, maybe you went to a playground. There was always a sandbox. But what most people forget about the sandbox is it has to be built and constructed before you can actually play in it. And so the idea here is that rather than getting focused on an application or something that you need to get to as far as practicing your skills, you need to give a lot of consideration to the actual construction of the sandbox itself. So Sandbox Netwerx isn't specifically for a particular vendor or a particular person in the IT environment, but it's about exploring and looking at different types of sandboxes, the kinds that would allow or facilitate that kind of learning. So out of the many years that I've done it, I would just pretty much give you a little rundown, a little bit about myself, so that you kind of understand the context of why I'm doing these sandboxes. So back in 2006, there was a project kicked off by Jeremy Grossman. He is the guy that wrote a graphical overlay on a virtual router or virtual application called Dynamips. He basically, that graphical overlay is called GNS3. And so I kind of came across GNS3 around 2008, 2009 when I was kind of aspiring to get my first certification as a Cisco CCNA, Certified Network Associate. But I was quoted from a leading boot camp. That boot camp is a place that offers you, real intense classroom study and hands-on labs so that you could pass a test. They were quoting like $9,000, and my salary and kind of things I had to support, family, that kind of stuff. I just couldn't afford $9,000. So what I decided to do is poke around and mess around with this application called GNS3, and it really took a lot of work just to get the GNS3 working, as I saw in all the screenshots and the message boards, and I got to the point where I was actually learning GNS3 so that I can do my Cisco routing and switching. Played with it for the next 2-3 years actually. 2012, I took a job as a solutions architect for a hospital, and while I was there, I finally got my certification in CCNA, all just by practicing in GNS3. And so in 2014, GNS3 put out like they were looking to hire someone, and I got hired out of like 800 applicants to man this new thing that they were launching called GNS3 Jungle. So the direction, so you got to wear a bunch of hats. You got to moderate the entire platform. I got to play with and test different vendor software. It wasn't just Cisco. I had to test out if Arista worked, and I had to test out if Juniper worked, and I had to test. So I got to test out all these virtual machines, and I got paid to do it. And it was just a lot of fun. And then I got to write about it, post it, do some technical support, maybe do a little bit of product guidance. There's a couple of things that I put my stamp on for GNS3, and that was a really fun experience. But I never really left it. It's actually one of the main tools I have in my arsenal, in my tool case. So aside from GNS3, I also use Eve NG, which is another type of network emulator. And between the two of those, you could build some pretty amazing real life networks to study with or to actually do proof of concept. But man, it took so much work just to get the environment running. You really have to know your stuff, and I think there's some value there. I think some people struggle with the concepts of networking. So what I would like to just kind of extend out that these sandbox networks are just really to talk about the sandbox itself. What are the components you need to get that to work, and is it even worth all that time, right? In other words, does another product actually do a better job for what you're trying to accomplish? But other than that, I think that this is a really good idea. And what we can do is basically I'll post something up that I'm working on that I think is interesting, and then you can make some comments below on some suggestions on types of sandboxes you would like to see for your education or your professional development. So that's pretty much what this is. This is Sandbox Netwerx. My name is Matt, and thank you for taking a look at my channel.